Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be having a panel discussion on that topic. We have here with us the moderator of the session, Mr. Edward Bass, Inward Investment Manager, UK Department for Business and Trade. We have here with us our elite set of speakers, Mr. Amit Sahni, Founder and CEO, Croftz Limited UK, Ms. Nadia Sood, Founder and Group CEO, CreditEnable, and Mr. Nilkanth Hariharan, SVP and Country Manager, KX. Let's have a huge round of applause for them, please. Sir, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. It's a pleasure to be here. And I know we're all very excited to kind of give our views on collaboration opportunities between the UK and between India. So firstly, I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Ed. I work within the Department for Business and Trade, and my job really is to try and help Indian businesses to access the UK market. And that is really done by providing free and confidential support that really falls into two areas, informing and connecting. So if anyone wants to chat about expanding into the UK and any opportunities there, please feel free to reach out to me after the session. But that's enough about me. We're really here to hear more from our three esteemed panellists. So what we'll start off with is just letting them briefly introduce their business, and then we'll dive into a conversation around collaboration between both countries and how it's worked for their businesses. So Nilkanth or Amit or whoever wishes to go first. If you just want to briefly describe your business, what the business does, and then we can take it from there.
Thanks, Ed. Good afternoon. I think after the long session in the morning, I think everybody is now, all charged up. So I run a business which is called as Croftz, and it's a RegTech-based firm in the UK, based out of London, and we provide anti-money laundering and compliance solutions to MSME in the UK and other parts of the world. And basically, we are on a mission of providing and empowering companies to be more compliant, specifically in meeting their regulatory obligations on anti-money laundering and KYC compliance solutions and sanctions framework. So basically, in simple terms, we are helping businesses to simplify compliance.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So Nadia, I'm not sure if you want to go next.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Nadia Sood. I run a company called CreditEnable. We're headquartered in the UK and operate in India. And we have a technology platform that intermediates the market for SME credit. So on one side, we have SME owners who are looking for debt. And on the other side, we have in India 40 financial institutions that provide that debt to SMEs. We run an exchange so that SMEs looking for a new loan can approach the platform and then be intermediated to the right lender. And we also help lenders offload unserviceable customers that they have that enter their sales funnel, push them back onto our platform, and secure a loan for them elsewhere in the ecosystem. Recently, we've also launched a digital financial wellness product together with the government of India and Niti Aayog, which we're really excited about, which is designed to help the bulk of the market of SMEs who today will not be considered viable investments by formal financial institutions to improve their credit position, improve their financial position, and then access debt from the formal market.
Thank you very much. And then Nilkanth, last but not least.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. So I'm Nilkanth. I lead the India operations for KX. We're a company headquartered out of Newry, Northern Ireland. We are listed on the London Stock Exchange, do about 100 million ARR. We were not present in India till last year, and we kind of opened our operations. KX is essentially an AI and a data platform company. So whenever you're looking at very fast data, you're looking at very large volumes of data, you're looking at variety of data, both structured and unstructured. We're hearing about Gen AI and all those things. Whenever you have a convergence of all these different kinds of data, people actually go to KX. So if you look at our customers, some of the largest investment banks, in fact, even the defense and government customers, the F-35 actually has KX in it. And obviously, we started off in India to explore the Indian market. Indian capital market is now amongst the top 5 capital markets in the world, and then of course there's a lot of India-UK collaboration when it comes to government, defense, and other sectors.
Thank you very much. And no, thank you for those overviews. It's really useful to know and just kind of set the scene of who we're talking to and what your businesses do. And I think I'd like to start off, my first question is kind of really just diving straight into it. I understand that you've all got operations both in the UK and, as you've mentioned, quite recently for KX in India as well. And I'd just like to understand how have you utilised both countries within the business to expand your business more rapidly? So how have you managed to utilise, say, operations in the UK and operations in India to help you expand and grow the business into the, currently? So I'm not sure who wants to take that first, whoever's...
Okay, so I think that's a good question. I think having business in the UK and then looking for establishing in India or vice versa, I think there are a few things which I think is quite important. First is I think access to I think ease of doing business is something which every business look out, that how easy it is to establish companies, open bank accounts, and having a quick setup so that they can be on the ground and having good operations in whichever country you want to be in. Either you want to come from UK to India or India to UK. Second thing which is a bit important from the perspective is access to capital, and I think that's where a strong banking and regulatory framework provides that, whether it's through sort of a loans, or whether it can be through any public-private partnerships, which is there. Third, what we look out for is access to even local talent base, which is quite important for having a good operations and rolling out your product and services in the market itself. So I think between both the countries, I think there is a strong potential of having a collaboration on regulatory technology and maybe even on the talent mobilization as well, where government is working in terms of making it more easier for providing access to good visa systems for people to just move either from India to UK or the other way around. So that's what I think is important.
Awesome, thank you very much. Not sure, Nadia or Nilkanth, have you got any thoughts on that? If not, we'll move on to another question.
I think each country evolves differently in terms of its regulatory framework, and one of the advantageous things for us being a UK headquartered company was that we actually followed GDPR, which, and if you know about data protection laws, the UK's regulation for data protection is actually the most stringent in the world. And so when we moved into the Indian market, we already anticipated that we wouldn't be able to take financial data from Indian companies outside of India, and we set up all of our operations to manage that. So actually understanding that regulation would likely come into India, or some version of it, was really helpful. So we had already had the framework from the UK and we just applied it here. And then recently I've been talking to lots of my banking colleagues, even large British banks, who didn't really anticipate that, and then they had issues where they had to relocalize everything. So I think if you're in multiple markets and you can sort of cherry pick what is the best framework, the most forward framework, and then apply that yourself as a business owner when you move into a new country, you're generally going to be ahead of the curve, and therefore you have less challenges as you go forward and you grow.
Thank you.
No, I'll kind of add on to that, right? So we are a listed company on the London Stock Exchange. Obviously, GDPR is one aspect, and as a listed company, there are 100 other things that you need to check the boxes in. So being a listed company on London Stock Exchange just makes it pretty much easy here in India to register. We really did not have too many problems, getting registered, opening a bank account. Pretty much all those things are already ticked off. So if you're listed in the UK or you've gone through all the due diligence there, it's not very difficult to kind of do it. I think where things differ a little bit is on the labor laws and local laws that are there. I think more importantly, I think what is important, and this is outside of regulation, compliance and other things, it's very, very important if you are a UK-based company trying to expand into India, is to build your business case. What's the opportunity that you see, especially for a company like ours, which works again with investment banks, highly regulated industries. Can you replicate that success in India? And then if you are an Indian company that's trying to expand back into the UK, the other way around, again, it depends on which industry you are in. So if you look at, again, because we are at GFF, if you're an insure tech, I think you have a larger opportunity in a country like UK, where the market is very matured when it comes to insurance compared to what there is in India. But if you're into wealth tech, I would say that the opportunity in India is larger than what you could find anywhere else in the world, because the market is very, very underpenetrated, and you have an option to kind of quickly grow through. So I think it's very important for companies from the UK investing into India, the other way around, to really get your business priorities very, very right, understand the opportunities and the challenges. I think the other things are fairly easy and fall in place.
Awesome, thank you. Well, if I may just kind of pick out a couple of key themes that seem to have come from those answers. The idea of cherry picking and understanding where the strength lies in each market seems to be a key point. So Nadia, you mentioned that there's this kind of gold standard almost with regulation in the UK, that it just made it easier for you to access new markets because you're already highly regulated. I think that's a really interesting point, because most people might say balk at the idea or turn their backs to the idea of increased regulation, but actually more and more regulation gets adopted through the first movers. So GDPR was the EU and the UK, and there's various other regulations coming through, and it will only be a matter of time before those standards are adopted by new markets. So by, in a way, going to those more regulated areas and then accessing new area or new localities after that might be a good plan. And I think, Nilkanth, you kind of summed it up quite well. It's identifying what works in each country and each market. So obviously insurance in the UK with the Lloyd's market is one of the largest in the world. But as you say, wealth tech in India might well be that opportunity for here. So I think that's really, really interesting. Thank you for those comments. Just kind of moving on to, say, a more government side of things, I'd like to put the question potentially to the panel of, say, how have you found collaborating with either public entities in the UK or within India? Have they provided you with substantial support? And has that helped you engage your business and move it to the next level? I'm not sure who wants to.
I'm happy to take that if you want. Yeah. So let me talk about my experience, or rather the experience of KX, and I'll talk more about being a UK-based company. I'll talk about the experience. So I think right from the day we decided that we need to have a business here locally in India, though not being present in India for so many years, but once we made that decision, I think our first point of contact was the DPT, the High Commission, to really try to figure out, again, not on how to start an operation, how to open a bank account, do you need a EPFO registration, not those kind of things, but really on the business front, right? Really on the networking front, really on getting in front of potential clients, partners that we can build in India. So in fact, we did our launch event. I think September last year is when we officially launched KX in India. In fact, we still didn't have a registered office then, but we launched the operations along with DBT. We launched it in Mumbai, the financial capital of India, and in Bangalore. And we got tremendous support from DBT. We had like 150 executives in the room from the Indian financial services industry, CTOs, chief data and AI officers, listening to what KX has been doing globally with other large banks, and how they can, in fact, His Excellency who spoke earlier kicked off the session there itself. Similarly there in Bangalore, which is a different market, it's not the financial capital, but that's where you see the large global system integrators. The event and the session itself was kind of hosted at the Deputy High Commissioner's residence in Bangalore. So I think leveraging, if you are a UK company, leveraging the government, leveraging the connects that the local team have here, I would say that's the best way to go. The kind of mileage, the kind of credibility that you get to the market, I think is amazing. So,
awesome. Thank you very much. Then
I think I can just add to it. We are now, in fact, we've been working with DBT, which is Department of Business and Trade now for almost a year now. And we're working in 3 countries, in India, in the UK, and also in the US. We're looking, we've been now entering Indian markets, and we're looking to set up over here. And we've been we've received incredible support from the DBT team, right from getting us the connections to establish business over here, for right from company formations to connecting with the local banking partners, for opening bank accounts, etc. I think more important thing is the market knowledge. That's what we aspire to for any business which is going in a different geography. Have some sort of an understanding which is more theoretical, but when you actually are over there, you need some local presence of somebody who can just handhold you and actually shorten the time period from, let's say, from months to just few days. And that can actually help you to get your operations up and running and just be in the market itself. So I think from that context, I think the support which is being provided by DBT, I think has been incredible. And the same is, we're looking at from the international context, that just being one geography, how do you do your local business making it international. So that's where I think the team is doing a phenomenal role.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that, and I think it's also, if you're an Indian company entering the UK government establishment can really help you. There are channels set up for you to access so that you can have access to more affordable office space across the country. There are lots of economic stimulus programs to try to attract businesses into different parts of the UK. So you don't only need to think about London as a headquarters. There's support to understanding the local market in the UK. It's a launch pad to go to other markets, so that then there are trade delegations you can go on where you can move from the UK to the US or other emerging markets. And likewise, I think the Indian government has a similar set of channels set up. So because we've been a UK-India business for a long time, and there are not so many of us in the fintech space that straddle both economies, we've been very heavily supported by DBT, which has helped us in India, but also by the Indian High Commission in London, who's helped us also raise our profile there amongst the financial institutions that have a large outpost in London. So if we couldn't meet them here, we were sometimes meeting them in London, and then they were helping us reconnect in India. So you can, people often think that working with government is onerous, but actually the trade divisions of both governments are really set up to help companies actually grow, and so you should try to get in front of them, collaborate, and utilize the resources if you're thinking about moving internationally, because it's a fantastic support network, and it's always free, which is wonderful too.
Thank you. And I think you've all got future careers in FDI, if I can say so, because you've managed to sum that all up quite well. One of the lines that I use quite often in my meetings, and it's a really cheesy line, but the whole role of government in this effort is to shorten your distance to success. I mean, that's a real marketing slogan, but that's ultimately what we're here to do. It's about trying to make life as easy as possible, and ultimately those conversations that might have taken months, as Amit alluded to, could only take a couple of days with the right connections and the right conversations at the right event. And I think that's the real power of what, say, collaborating with government can do. And as Nadia mentioned, it can feel onerous, or you might appear to be onerous, but we're friendly people, we're here to help, and there's always support on both sides. So my top tip when it comes to expanding into international markets is find as much free support as you can, and that will typically come from the governments of the local area, the governments of the nation, and your home government as well. There will be people out there trying to support you to achieve economic objectives. So I think it's really important to try and soak up as much of that information, as much of that support as you can. So if we can look towards the future, how do you see your businesses operating between both markets, and where do you see the opportunities arising for your respective businesses? Who wants to go?
You go first. So we actually I'm an Indian diasporatic person. My father came from Hoshiarpur in Punjab, and then he left in the 1960s when there was a huge brain drain out of India. But I always felt that it would be possible to build in India for the world. So that's kind of what my business has done. And recently we created, just to go back a little bit in how government has supported us, a couple of years ago, just before COVID, we were actually nominated by the UK government for a very big award that's co-awarded by the Indian Prime Minister, Prime Minister Modi and our then Prime Minister in the UK. And we won that award. And then several years later, when we wanted to try to collaborate with the Indian government, this was actually quite a big imprimatur that we had won this award that was where both the prime ministers had said this is a company that's trying to do things to fundamentally impact in a positive manner on the economy. And later we were operating in India and seeing that the majority of small business owners who enter the market for credit at any point in time are going to not get the loan that they need because they don't understand how to present themselves to a formal financial institution. So we built a product for them to help them understand what's wrong with them today and what do they need to change, and then how to fix that. And it's very specific to their business. In August, we launched that product with Niti Aayog so that we can distribute it across the country with a specific focus on women entrepreneurs to start, and then moving more broadly into the MSME space. But the fact that we did that then allowed us to go back to the UK government and say, wouldn't we want to also do this for SMEs in the UK economy? So we're now going to be launching the same product that was built in India for Indian SMEs. A version of that will get launched in the UK for UK SMEs to help them improve their creditworthiness. So India is also a great. So if you can use India also as a testing ground because of the sheer vastness of the economy, the sheer number of people, to really fine-tune your product, and then it will likely also have a utility value in another market. So I think there's a huge opportunity to. In the future for British companies to do product development, product iteration, product innovation in the Indian market, and build for the world from India.
Yeah, I can kind of add to that. In fact, India can be the crucible to build your products for the world. In fact, that's the model we're kind of following. So, when this whole generative AI thing really came in, we were focused before that on traditional AI, predictive analytics, and those areas. And we really wanted to see how the product can be extended when it comes to Gen AI. Now, one of the challenges and the opportunities here in India is it's not one single language, though of course English is the language of business, but when you really look at consumers, there are thousands of languages and thousands of dialects, so that obviously makes it more complex. But if you can make your product understand and make it work for a country, India is actually not a country, it's a subcontinent, right, with multiple languages and cultures. So, that's an opportunity to kind of, so all our Gen AI related development is something that we've started here, in India. Obviously, we're collaborating a lot from the business angle, where all the knowledge is, which is with our UK, our Northern Ireland office, and of course, part of it in the US. The other big opportunity for companies from the UK, or for that matter anywhere in the world, is the large global system integrators and the advisories, the Infosys, the Wipro, and for that matter, even the large companies like Accenture, Capgemini, EY, Deloitte. Most of their technical decision makers, so to say, sit out of India. So if you're trying to sell to a large bank or a large automotive company, those folks are going to go back to one of these GSIs or advisories and ask them, hey, is this the right technology for me? So I think it's very important, even if you're not focusing on selling your product to the Indian banks or the Indian automotive customers, for whatever reason, I think you should, but there is still an opportunity to work with these global system integrators, and their center of excellences sit here. And the third point that I want to make is pretty much all the large banks across the world, they have a global captive center in India. And more you'll see the business decision makers are also based out of India. And I can name names, but I don't want to do this in this forum, but it's very, very critical. If yours is a product which is disrupting the industry, you need to have a presence, because you won't know where your competition has taken away the business from you. So.
To add to it, in the morning, Honorable Prime Minister Modi spoke about artificial intelligence and creating a global risk framework around it. So what I think is that that's an area where we see, a strong role which India can play and Indian companies can play in creating a governance framework around, either artificial intelligence or the emerging technologies. And the companies in India and the UK can work together in collaboration because UK has always been ahead of, governance and creating policy frameworks around, whether it's fintech or be it, any sector. So the companies in the UK can work in collaboration specifically on creating those governance framework and policies, and also around risk management, fraud detection, and specifically having a role to have a strong compliance for businesses to operate locally in India and or overseas as well. So I think both the countries have got strategic advantage in terms of what it has to offer. It's just the businesses over here has to, work together hand in hand and see, things where they find synergies and find a way out to just be together.
Awesome, that's great, thank you very much. And I appreciate we're nearly at time, so I'll just quickly try and wrap this up. And I hope that you've all found the conversation interesting and relevant to your businesses and has provided food for thought and some ideas on where you can go next. But by the sounds of it, there's lots of opportunity in the future. And I'd say the main point is that you need to identify those areas of strengths and those areas where you can make a real difference in that market. So be specific in what you're looking to do in each country and identify where you can kind of excel in that particular area. But I'll close there, and I'd just like to say thank you very much to our three panellists. It's been a pleasure. I'd like to say thanks again to Harjinder Kang for offering that keynote speech to start with, and thank you all very much for being in the audience today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.